Hello, viewers, welcome to my channel. It's after a long time that I'm uploading a video, and I would really like to thank all of you for supporting me throughout these months. So, today we'll be starting a new series on environmental studies, which is a compulsory paper for all the undergraduate curricula across Indian universities. This comes as a part of Ability Enhancement Compulsory Course, that is an AECC paper. So I'm sure all of you will benefit from it, and it will also be of use if you're planning to write any national eligibility test or state eligibility test or any other competitive exam which includes environment and zoology in it. Let us begin. So we will start this paper, or we will start the study of this subject by knowing what environment is and the features of environment. Now, when we say environment, even in English, it means the surroundings. It is derived from a French word that is environner, that means to encircle or something that is all around. When I say surroundings, it includes all the conditions in which an organism survives or operates. When we say operates, it includes all the activities of the organism. It's living over there, it's reproducing, it's moving. All the activities of the organism are occurring in a particular area, and that entire area, along with its conditions, is called as the environment of that organism. When we say the conditions, let us break it up a little further. The conditions include both living and non living conditions. That is biotic, that is living. Bio is always standing for living. So, biotic components and abiotic components are present in the environment of any organism. Biotic components are the plants, the animals, the human beings that are there around that particular organism, which includes the flora and fauna. And the abiotic, that is the non living components, is everything else. That is the air the organism breathes, or the water that it's drinking, the land it is living on, the resources of the land which are present inside the soil, the food that it is eating, the sunlight that it is getting. All of these are called as the abiotic components. So, in an environment, there are both biotic and abiotic components, and together it is forming what we call the collective term, that is environment. So this term was being used in English quite a long time back, but it was first included or introduced in ecology by the scientist Jacob van Urekel. He is the one who introduced environment to mean surroundings in biology. So, as of now, as of today, in the present situation, when we say that environment and organism are interacting with each other, it includes the interaction of abiotic components, that is the non living components, biotic, that is the living components, and also the man made component, that is the scientific and technological component. All three together are interacting and making up the environment of a particular organism. So it's not just the non-living and the living factors. In the non-living factors, very specifically, we have the man-made technological inventions or discoveries or man-made scientific components, which are also playing an important role. All the three together are involved in the interaction between environment and an organism. The core concept or a constant property or feature of environment is that it is never static. It's always changing, either slowly or rapidly. Very gradually it will change over time, over several years, or it could change within the matter of a day. So environment is changing. The pace of change may be slow or rapid, but it is changing. It's never static. And the change that happens could either be beneficial or it may be harmful. It can be beneficial if man or human being is able to modify the environment using his scientific knowledge to suit his own needs. In that case, it can be beneficial. But if the change is harmful, it results in the species, in a particular species, getting extinct. So that is how we have had many species of animals and plants getting extinct, because they were not able to adapt to the change. So environment is changing. If we adapt to the change, we can survive. If we fail to adapt, or if the change is extremely harmful to us, then slowly we will be wiped out as a race. So this was about the meaning of environment and a very core property of the environment. Now the environment has different components in it. Like I said, there are biotic and abiotic components. The abiotic components can be further split into atmosphere, lithosphere, and hydrosphere. Atmosphere is the air that we breathe. So all of the gaseous components that are present around the Earth's surface together are called as the atmosphere. Lithosphere is the soil, the land that we see, the terrestrial area is called as the lithosphere. And hydrosphere is the water that is seen around us. It could be fresh water or marine water, but it is the water component, the aquatic component that is seen around us. So atmosphere, A for atmosphere, A for air, you can remember it that way. Lithosphere, L for lithosphere, L for land. And hydrosphere, H for hydrosphere, H for H2O, which is the chemical formula for water. So these three are the abiotic components: the atmosphere, lithosphere, and hydrosphere. We have a fourth component, that is biosphere, which is also the biotic component. So biosphere is including all the living organisms. It could be macro, it could be microorganism, it could be a plant, an animal, an insect, a human being, whatever it is. Biosphere is present in all the other three spheres. That is, biosphere is a part of air, land, as well as water. Together, all four of these are forming the components of the environment. The reason I have drawn a circle like this, a dotted circle, which is encompassing all the three spheres, is because biosphere is common. It is present in all the three spheres. That is the reason this kind of a circle has been drawn. So all four of these involve or include the abiotic and the biotic components of environment. Now, if we study environmental studies, what is the reason it has been included in all the undergraduate syllabi of Indian universities? The reason is that environment education was identified as a very important part of awareness by United Nations, UNESCO, and United Nations Environmental Program way back in 1977. So there in 1977 they had the first intergovernmental conference on environmental education, and they decided this is a subject that needs to be brought across to every individual on earth. Otherwise, we are going to ruin our environment, and our children and the upcoming generations won't know what to do. So it was introduced as a subject, or it was introduced as an educational venue way back across the world. And it was in 1991 that the Indian government decided that environmental studies has to be included as a compulsory paper in all the undergraduate programs, and that is how it came about. So if we study this environmental science, what is the scope ahead? Where do you apply this science? So environmental science gives us the understanding of various components of the environment, the components I just told you about. And after knowing these components, it helps us to find out valid knowledge about the nature, the natural world, what impact we are having on it, and how we can deal successfully with the environmental problems. This is the whole point of studying environmental science. If we do so, if we study or if we have a good knowledge of environmental science, it helps us to create awareness on mainly these four areas of the subject, and helps us to develop skills to find solutions in these four subjects. So what are these four areas or major areas of applicability of environmental science? The first area of applicability is the management of natural resources. So as we all know, natural resources are not infinite. We know that there are renewable and non-renewable resources. We know that there has to be a balance which has to be maintained between these resources. We need to know how much of each resource is present so that we can set up a good pattern of utilization. So to do all this, we need to have the knowledge of environmental science. So environmental science helps us to manage our natural resources in the best possible way. The second scope or applicability is the impact on human population. How the increasing human population has an effect on health or hygiene of a particular area, of a country, of a city. That can be managed, or that can be controlled. It can be kept in the good range if we know, or if we have awareness about environment and the condition of human population, what impact human population has. That can be known if we study environmental science. The third applicability is in the conservation of ecosystem and biodiversity, which means what are the potential dangers that are there to the different species of flora and fauna around us? How can we find solutions to these dangers? What can we do to minimize the danger? That is what comes under environmental science and how it can help the ecosystem and to save the biodiversity. The fourth one is the prevention and control of pollution. So we know a lot of pollution has already occurred. Some of it was natural, some of it was induced disasters. Some disasters happen naturally, some of most of it has been induced due to human activities. So, disasters such as floods or cyclones or landslides have increased. They used to happen earlier, but now their frequency has increased because of climate change and global warming and whatnot, which is an effect of human urbanization and industrialization and human activities on the whole. So, how do we further prevent pollution? How do we control the pollution that has already happened? This is again a very, very important area of applicability of environmental science. So, if we have a thorough knowledge of this subject, we can apply our knowledge in these four core areas of or core problematic areas, and we can come out with valid solutions. To do so, to apply our knowledge, there are different employability areas that are present. So, when I say that I am a graduate of environmental science or I have a knowledge of environmental science, these are the areas I can apply my knowledge in. Where do I get an employment? Where do I get a job? Where do I get employed and apply my skills? So, these are the different employability aspects of environmental science. The first one is in academics. You could always get into teaching and spreading awareness further among students. And it's not only amongst college students, it's also amongst the school students and the younger kids. We need to make each and every individual aware. So, spreading awareness through academics is one scope for environmental science graduates. We can also go in for research and development, that is R&D, to find out solutions. We are continuously faced with problems. We need to find newer and better solutions day by day. So R&D is again a very important area, or an area that employs a lot of people in case of environmental science. The third one is in industries. So those candidates who have a good knowledge of environmental science are required, trained professionals are required to sort out the environmental issues in every industry. Each and every industry has a set of goals that they need to follow. We look at that a little ahead. So, these goals, to meet these goals, they need trained professionals. So, industries is one good place where you can get a job. Next one is in ministries, that is the government ministries at the state level or the national levels, or if not ministries, several NGOs are working for developing and improving the environment. So they do take up trained professionals so that their expertise can be involved over there and it can be used over there. Then we could have candidates getting into green advocacy or green journalism. Green advocacy is wherein law graduates who know the environmental laws are able to find out what can be done to industries who are violating the rules, what needs to be done further. So they help in the law lawmakers. They are the lawmakers and they help us to implement the environmental laws. Green journalism includes the communication, mass communication, making sure the word gets out to the public at the grassroots level. So this includes newspapers or internet or using the media, that is mass media, getting into TV. Any kind of journalism which is involved with environment is again coming under green journalism. So these are the areas of employability which come under the scope of environmental science. Now, why do we need to study environmental science? What is the importance? Okay, I'll get a job. I'm going to do a course on environmental science. But why? Why do I need to do it? Is it just the money? No, it's not. So, each and every one of us is being affected by the environment. It's a global problem, it's a global subject. Every one of us has to put in our brains together to come up with a solution. It's not limited to a single city or a country, it is affecting the entire earth, either directly or indirectly. If it's not affecting you today, after 20 years it will affect you. So we need to do detailed research and find solutions, and this effort has to come from multiple countries. So that is how we can control the wind patterns. We can make sure that the ocean and monsoon patterns are not changing. Ozone depletion is again a global subject. So every individual across the earth needs to know about it. That is the first reason that the environmental science is so important and has been included as a mandatory paper for all the undergraduate students. Its knowledge is very essential. It's essential for resource planning, for material management. In fact, you can say that human beings very survival on earth is under threat. So it is very important that we learn environmental science and actually try to come up with certain solutions. So the first reason is that it is a global issue. All the environmental issues are global problems. The second thing is that we need development. There is rampant urbanization, rampant industrial growth is necessary, but we do know that this development is negatively impacting or affecting the environment. It is causing detrimental effect on the environment. But there are certain countries, certain developed countries, which have more access to technology. They have the know-how of environment and resources. They know how best to use the resources, how to do the material management. So with environmental education, it's not just certain countries, it's not just the developed countries which will have the access to technology. All the countries will have equal access to technology, and this will help us to achieve the common goal. So we need to make sure that the technology of having development and environment hand in hand is spread across to every nation and every individual. The third reason why we need to study environmental science is for ecological conservation. Like I told you a bit before, we need to have a knowledge of environmental science so that we can conserve whatever resources are there on earth. Resources, not only the land resources, but also the biodiversity. We can make sure that the animals, the plants which are there do not go extinct. We can conserve them and we can maintain the quality of environment. So for that again, for ecological conservation, we need to know about environmental science first. The next reason is that we have to go for alternative solutions. That is the mantra of the day. You have to do it, whether it is agricultural industry or even to IT industries. Every industry is looking for eco-friendly solutions or natural alternatives. You look for cosmetic industry, everybody, food industry, everybody is going for natural alternatives. So we need to look for alternative solutions, eco-friendly solutions, which can help in reducing pollution. Even at an individual level, environmental science knowledge will help us to cut down pollution or to reduce pollution. Then what we need to do, or why we need to study environmental science, one major reason is in waste management. We do know that the rising waste is a problem in every country. Its treatment, its disposal are huge challenges. They, not only to cities, even in villages, they are huge challenges, and they are causing a disruption of the environment. They are messing up the environmental conservation programs. So we need to come up with excellent foolproof ideas for management of waste and reducing the pollution caused by it. Lastly, we have to know about environment for energy efficiency. We know that the fossil fuels are not forever. So saving energy will help us to reduce the carbon footprint. It will not only help us to save the money, but it will also positively impact the environment. So the environmental education is aimed at propelling or improving the R&D, research and development, in all these above areas, so that certain applications or solutions come up which will help us to have development in a wise manner. You plan the development in a wise manner without disrupting the environment. Now the environment has this problem. We know that there are several problems. A few of them I have shown it to you over here. This is the industrial exhausts which release a lot of acids into the atmosphere, like sulfuric acid or nitric acid, which later comes down as acid rain and pollutes the environment. It messes up with the aquatic ecosystem. It creates a lot of damage to buildings and structures. This is the ozone hole, which we know has been there since a very long time. And the third picture I have shown you is about leaded petrol. Now, these problems which I have shown you here have been either eradicated or at least reduced to a large extent. For example, leaded petrol has been completely banned as per the UN reports. As of 2021, the petrol sold in every country is not having lead in it, or it has been made free of lead. So there are certain problems for which all the heads have come together and we have come up with a solution. But there are problems which still exist. For example, ozone hole, there is decrease in the size of hole. We are not increasing it too much, but still there are a lot of chlorofluorocarbons in use, and there are a lot of other materials which are hampering the ozone layer. So ozone hole is one problem which we are somewhat controlling. Lead free petrol is a problem we have been able to solve, and acid rain too is a problem which we have been able to control. So for all of these problems, the one common solution was a multidisciplinary approach. We have to put in people, experts, not only from biology. We cannot confine ourselves to biology. We need to touch upon all the different domains of sciences, not only sciences, economics, and other subjects as well, so that we can analyze the environmental factors, analyze the distribution of organisms, and find out plausible solutions, find out viable, feasible solutions. So that means to say, environmental science is not a basic subject, it's an applied science which is seeking practical answers to make human civilization easy and sustainable on Earth. For this, it takes in inputs from various different subjects, various different branches. That means to say, environmental science is a multidisciplinary science. It is having a multidisciplinary nature. The reason being, in the environment, there is an interaction of physical, biological, and cultural elements. For example, the physical elements include the land, or the water bodies, or soil, or the rocks, the climate, air, space, everything. All those are the physical components. Biological components are plants, animals, microorganisms, and human beings. And the cultural components are the social components, the political elements, the economic elements. All the man made features come under cultural elements. So, all three elements are interacting continuously, which means to say, if I have an environmental problem and I need a solution, I have to include physical, biological, and cultural elements to get a solution. It has to be multidisciplinary. So, the first science, or the first part of environmental studies or environmental science, is life science. Life science graduates or life science professionals give you the basic idea of the biodiversity. They tell you how the animals will be, how they will behave, what you should do to conserve them. So, we need professionals from zoology, botany, pedology, that is soil science, agriculture. We need professionals from microbiology, biotechnology, biochemistry. All of these sciences, the life sciences, will give you the basic idea of what is there in the environment. But we do need physical science professionals, because subjects like physics, chemistry, geography, geology, meteorology, paleontology, oceanography, all these will help us to analyze the environmental factors. There is remote sensing which can be developed by electronics graduates. So it will help us to remote sense the different factors in environment. It will help us to study the distributions of organism globally, not only in today's scenario but even in the past. That is where paleontology comes in. So I can always say, oh, millions of years ago this was the condition, now this is the condition. For that, I need professionals from the physical science. We need professionals from technology, because it is these professionals of mechanical engineering, civil engineering, nanotechnology, hydraulics, chemical engineering, it is these professionals who come up with the final technique. We tell them the problem, we tell what is the issue, they come up with various analytical data, and finally it is the technology people who actually come up with a design. They design the final discovery or the invention which can help us. We need people from management and awareness backgrounds, so that we can educate others, create awareness amongst the public. We need to have people from economics, we have to have people from sociology, from law, from mass communication. The reason being, we have to keep religious, legal, and political organizations in mind whenever we are trying to implement an environmental law or when we are trying to implement something for the environment. It's always easy for us to say something should not be done, but we should think about what are the repercussions on religious factors, on religious grounds. What are the repercussions on legal grounds? Is it even possible? Is the solution I'm telling, is it even legal? So we need to think of different strategies and policies, environmental ethics, and for that we need people from management and awareness background. Notwithstanding or not the least, we do need people who can help us to do modeling. This includes professionals from mathematics, statistics, computer science, and data analytics. They are the ones which help us to quantify the data, to analyze the data in a very systemic manner. They help us with statistical tools which are going to predict the effect of different variations that are happening in the environmental components. So all the prediction, the analysis, the quantifying, the arranging of data, all that happens with the help of these professionals. So all of these sciences, all of these disciplines come together, and that is what makes the multidisciplinary nature of environmental science. Initially, it was thought that environment is only about public health, only about sanitation. But now we know that the horizon has widened excessively with increased human population, and we know how the natural resources are being exploited. There has to be an action which needs to be taken not only by the government but by each and every one of us. And we have to prevent the environmental degradation, which has to become a core and integral part of every one of our lives. So in this effect, even the United Nations has come up with several programs, several agendas. They have even released several days to commemorate environment. For example, World Environment Day is on June 5th, and they have given days to commemorate every different event or every different part of the environment. So all that is in an effort to make sure that every one of us is doing our role in taking care of the environment. Coming to the last part of unit 1, which is on sustainable development. So this is a concept that was given by Brundtland in 1987. She was the former PM of Norway, and she was made the chairperson of Commission for the Environment. So the UN told that she is going to be the chairperson of the Brundtland Commission, and the reason being she had a very good background in science and public health. So she did a lot of research along with her team members, and she came up with this concept for the first time, the concept of sustainable development. She said that the report is called as Our Common Future. You can get it on the internet as well. In that, it is given that the mode of development cannot be only on economic growth. You cannot say that I need to develop my state or my city or my country only on money. No, that's not possible. I have to have even the environment in mind when I'm looking at development. So, any development which is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs is called as sustainable development. In very simple words, I should be able to live, my future generation should also be able to live comfortably. I cannot have me living in a lot of lavish resources, and then when I see my children don't have any resources to live upon. No, that's not possible. I have to take care that I, the current generation, and my future generation are able to meet our needs. If the consumption is faster than the nature's ability to replenish the resource, then that will lead to unsustainable development, unsustainable growth. So she was the one, this commission was the one, Brundtland Commission, which said that sustainable development is the key to future generations. It is the key for all development. In fact, sustainable development, if we keep following, it is the pathway to reach sustainability. The final goal is sustainability. So after 1987, there was a lot of mulling over this topic, and in 1992, in Earth Summit at Rio de Janeiro, they formulated guidelines for sustainable development. Then again, some countries were following it, some countries were unable to do it, but they kept this concept alive. They said that no, sustainable development is a very core concept and an important concept if the future generations have to survive. So there are three pillars of sustainability, and those are the environmental pillar, the social pillar, and the economic pillar. Environmental pillar means it to live within the means of natural resources. Some will be more abundant than others, so we should consider the materials scarcity. We should see what our country is having, what our country is not having. We have to make sure that extraction of minerals should not damage the environment. So basically, taking care of the environment in our place is the environmental pillar. The social pillar is achieving a good social well-being, which means to say the people should be happy, everybody's living conditions should be good, everyone should get an equal opportunity. That is called as the social pillar. And the economic pillar is the pillar that is related to money. That is the consistently the product, whatever operations are happening, they should give us operational profit. The resources should be used efficiently. There should be long term employment, there should be a lot of international trade. So all those economic part of it, the money part of it, comes under economic pillar. Now, only if all the three pillars are in perfect unity, they are in perfect balance, what we get is sustainable development. The small part over here is sustainable development. If any of the pillars is not in a balance, if it is off, you do not get sustainable development. For example, if the environmental and the social pillars are strong but the economic pillar is weak, what we get over there is a bearable development. That means socially people are happy, environment is happy, but the city or the country is not making enough money. Economic and social pillars, if they are strong, what we get is equitable development. People are happy, country is making money, but environment is in a mess. If environment and economic pillars are strong, what we get is a viable development, viable growth, which means to say economically country is doing fine, the environment is also being taken care of, but the people are not getting anything. They are not having good living conditions. So unless all the three are in perfect balance, we cannot call it as sustainable development or sustainable growth. So it was in 2015 that at a meeting of the United Nations in New York, all the new UN member states decided or they adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Now, this agenda gives 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which have to be followed by all the countries, irrespective of whether they are developed or developing. They need to follow every one of these goals so that by 2030 they can achieve sustainable development. Now, this includes goals such as gender equality, quality education, life below water, life on land, responsible consumption and production. So, it encompasses all the areas of development of a particular city or of a particular country. And it is kept in mind, or it has been formulated keeping in mind that every country needs to work on these so that each and every country can attain sustainable development by the end of 2030, that is 2030. So resources such as fossil fuel, petroleum, they are being used faster, that they are being created by the natural processes. So we need to make sure that the population explosion doesn't happen. There is, the accelerated resource exploitation doesn't happen, and we have to make sure that the development has to be made keeping in mind the environment. So development based on careless application of technology, all these are the problems which cause crisis in the environment. And sustainable development is the answer to the above things. Sustainable development is based on scientific principles, ensures that there is sustainability without too much greed, without too much profit. It keeps in mind that social, economic and environmental pillars are in perfect balance. So, this is the concept of sustainability, and these are the 17 sustainable development goals. I hope you all had a fruitful lecture here. I'll meet you again with the next unit. Thank you.